Chris, Kim, welcome back. So much fun to see you guys. It's been a long time. I think the last time I saw you like this was in person, maybe at TPNX.
TPNX,
over a year ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
It feels like it was yesterday, but it also feels like it's been a really long time. I guess that's what happens when you're not doing much. The team there has been incredibly busy, going to push out some new updates, some pretty cool stuff that they're doing. But let's talk just a brief history. For those of you who don't know what MilKEEP is, Chris, Kim, why don't you just tell listeners out there kind of what it is you guys do and how you got started?
We got started because we went through the fun experience of trying to digitize all of Chris's flight records.
Yes.
Chris is a C-17 pilot, and we literally sat in the basement and typed things into a spreadsheet over the course of 3 days.
Yeah.
And we decided that that was silly. There was far better uses of our time, and maybe we should look into some kind of a solution. And we couldn't find one, so we decided to create one. And that's where MilKEEP started.
I remember when I first heard about MilKEEP, I was furious because it hadn't started about 3 years prior to when MilKEEP first came about, because I could have really used it back then. Maybe too late for me, but the next phase for a lot of people is going to be crazy because of this pause of hiring. The next, I think, and I'm hoping that a lot of folks are seeing that. There's already been some talk out in the majors world that they're going to be hiring possibly by the end of 2020 because of some staffing issues.
Oh my gosh.
There's some, a lot of it's rumor and conjecture, but if that's even, that rumor is being floated, and we've already seen at a couple airlines some staffing shortfalls in the way that they're operating right now. If summer and I don't know if anybody's seen this, but I saw a small article in the summer how booking is already up 200 to 300% for some international travel, which is, if that's international stateside, it's going to be bonkers. And I hope that folks out there are ready. And one of the best ways to get ready is to get the hardest and most painful part, in my mind, is your logbook set to go. So with that, how does, for those of you who don't know, MilKEEP.com, great website with an awesome video on how MilKEEP works. If you guys just want to go over a quick explanation of that before we launch into what these new updates are going to be for all the returning and new users that do come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, so it depends on what service you're in. So we started out just purely Air Force. That people will scan their records, which are all paper records. The Air Force actually just started to get away from paper records. They're not keeping them anymore for you. They're handing them back, and they're kind of starting fresh from what is currently in the system. They say, well, we can keep things digitally now, but we're not going to do any of the historical stuff. It's kind of scary. They just hand you the paper folder that they had and said, good luck. But the customers will scan that into a PDF and upload it. And then our system uses optical character recognition and a whole bunch of proprietary algorithms to data crunch it, put it in, digitize everything in a military logbook for you. And then based on a whole host of preferences that you can set, we'll convert that time into a civilian logbook too. So you have everything ready for airline applications.
We should say that is the Air Force process.
Yep.
It's different for Army, Navy, Marines.
Yeah, everyone, of course, why would the Department of Defense have a standardized system? So no service uses the same system, and none of them account for time the same exact way. And none of those 4 different ways, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, none of those are equal to the way that FAA is accounting for time and the way the airlines want to see it. So we built the system out after the Air Force version released. We had all the other services kind of clamoring, hey, why don't you have this for Army? Ours is terrible. Can you figure this out? Took us a little while, but we finally built it out. So now MilKEEP can accept any record from any of the 4 services and convert everything into a civilian logbook for you. So those are the 2 main things that you can do with MilKEEP that you can't really do with any of the other electronic logbooks is you can log things exactly the way that you would log it in the military, and it does all the translation for you. You don't have to change it all in your head and then input it into a civilian logbook format the way most electronic logbooks work.
You can also log civilian time from MilKEEP as well. That was a feature that we added a couple years, 2 years ago, I think.
Yep.
Buying
so
time.
You can do it all right there if you want to.
And I mean buying time as in not buying hours of flying time. I mean buying time. I'm a big believer in I'll pay money to get time out of the deal. So yeah, that's to me, even just my little baby conversion of just my Beach 1900 time, which I needed a log for my contract job. That took me, I would say about 6 hours, and that was only like 2.5 months worth of it. So, I mean, and that was just trying to I was recreating the wheel on some of that to go, okay, I signed for the airplane these days. Did I,
Right.
and then just going back and finding the record, which obviously is my own fault. But so for those of you out there who are going through this process and it seems daunting and overwhelming, I'm not going to lie to you. It totally is. Like, it's daunting and overwhelming. So, is
definitely one of the first things that you want to tackle when you're starting to look at
and that's what I was going to say. Perfect segue. It is one of the first things you want to tackle because I think it's the hardest, and get those hard ones out of the way because there are easier ways to do it. And I'm a big believer in the 4-hour work week. If I can automate it, I'm going to automate it. And to me, this is with all the other stuff that you may want to do before you go out to the airline universe and try to prep in all the ways that you're going to prep. I mean, there's some stuff that you can't get around. You got to go get your ATP. There is no way around that one. Other ones that are highly suggested, interview prep, CTP, that's another one you have to get. But there's things that you can automate along the way. So that's working in the background to get you ready to go faster. Instead, and the thing is don't become a cheap airline pilot until you become a cheap airline pilot. Like, go use those beautiful active duty dollars to help gain some of that time back. So when you do go on terminal leave, you can enjoy yourself a little bit. I can't stress that enough. I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have had the opportunity to do it. I guarantee you that it would have been a lot easier than the way I try to piece it together. So now that we kind of got the background and my thoughts on MilKEEP out of the way, what's this new update that you're about to release onto the MilKEEP world?
So I say, back it up just slightly.
Okay, sure.
When we finished all the services, we were looking at what can we do next. So we did a couple of more summary pages specific for Southwest and things like that for the airlines, for people transitioning over to the civilian world. And then we got a call from the Airlift Tanker Association, ATA. We got a call from them saying, hey, would you like to be industry partners with us? We realized that some of our members are transitioning. Not only that, some of them are Guard and Reserves in the first place. It's not all about being active duty Air Force. And we want to be able to help people. So they started bringing in civilian companies. Obviously, TPN was also an ATA kind of industry partner. And we started talking to a lot of the senior leaders there. So wing commanders would come talk to us. They were kind of shocked and surprised about what we could do with paper records and putting them into a digital format. But some of them were saying, well, what can you do for the enlisted corps? Because really that's like 85% of the Air Force is enlisted, not the pilots. So they don't care about their flying records as much. But the one thing that they do share in common is paperwork administrivia associated with the post-mission process. So one of them being filling out air medal paperwork. If I have an air medal or an aerial achievement medal, I have to go back in time, find all the flights that I did, the mission histories, find a mission number, and then I have to fill them all out on a form. I have to type everything out. I have to write a citation. And there's no good, easy way to do that. So that was the first thing that we decided to tackle. And now in MilKEEP, whenever you insert a flight, you can tag it as an air medal event or an aerial achievement medal event, and you can build a digital portfolio for a medal. And when you hit the number of flights that you would need, so usually it's like 20 for an air medal, you just click download form and boom, it automatically populates the form for you with 20 mission numbers, mission symbols, where you went, how you flew, how long you flew. And it takes all of the time out of that associated with having to go back, find all your mission histories, type everything out yourself. It's all automated and finished for you.
Wow. That is, yeah, here's another thing that I wish I would have had about 18 years ago, 15 years ago. I probably have 12 or 13 air medals outstanding, and I think I have one to my name. So I might be hitting.
Did okay.
I might be hitting you guys up here shortly to get that done. So how does? I mean, I assume it works in the same. You had to add some. I'm not the tech expert of the group. That's Matt. We know that. How did you add code, software, whatever, to capture that data and be able to then present it? Because we have guys who, I mean, who are doing that, scrubbing the record, trying to figure that out, and it sometimes they get lost or confused in how to figure it out themselves. So how did you guys tackle that?
Well, we got a good team of coders.
Yeah.
I would say, without getting into the nerd stuff
For sure.
of it, we're the people with good ideas on a cocktail napkin, and we hand it to them, and then we test it. We're the dumb UI people that say, hey, this does not look good. This does not make sense.
This doesn't work.
This doesn't work. But we have the background and the subject matter expertise in the flying and the Air Force world that we know what the paperwork should look like at the end.
Sure.
And we tell them, hey, here's the end product. And it's just going back and forth with the coders as they're building it out, making sure you have a good testing process. So at the end of the day, what you really want is, as you're logging things, I just wish I could tag it, or if the system would automatically tag it if I logged combat time or if I logged combat support time. The system already knows.
It's a lot of that data we're already tracking.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's just a matter of building in the functionality that we could.
Building a system that recognizes it, right? Because at the end of the day, all I want to be able to do as an aircrew member, pilot, or loadmaster, boom operator, whoever, is I just want to click a button that says download this form, and it automatically populates everything into a PDF so that I can just hit it and send it to the applicable training shop, exec shop, whoever that needs to log something for me.
I get it now. I like it. How do you foresee the future of this growing or integrating more with the SARM community, harm world? Because that question's out there a lot. I mean, we have mutual friend, ProFlight Blue, Tyler Allerding, who's got this software package that kind of all meets. This is all of you in that space are all working towards the same nexus of, it's a one-stop app on your phone for a pilot who gets done with a sortie to be able to enter their mission accomplishment report, and everything then is essentially done for them. I mean, that's where so if that's the end goal, and we're not close to that yet, how do we keep moving there? How do you foresee that going?
I personally see it happening one thing at a time. I think the big problem that a lot of large companies have problems with, like when the people who build GTIMs, they try to build everything that's all encompassing all at once. And really, if you just start out with a good base infrastructure and start building upon it piece by piece, like we started with just flight records,
Right.
transitioning over to what other part of the post-mission paperwork process is a pain associated to the aircrew. I mean, I've got 10 air medals or whatever, so putting that out, doing all the paperwork for that is just awful. So went after that. And now actually what we're just about to release is ground currency tracker.
Oh.
So 1522s, right? Everybody hate, and I just got a text like 3 days ago from my DO. He's like, hey, you didn't log whatever, umpty framp. And I said, no, I totally did. And he said, well, we need another 1522. It dropped out of ARMS. So we can pull it up and we can show you a quick demo of it. But basically, you log something in MilKEEP now, and all you have to do is hit send, and it will send it direct. It automatically generates the 1522 PDF. It's got a spot where you can sign it with your finger, or your instructor can sign it with a finger. It sends it directly to the SARM. So it's not trying to bypass the SARM troops. They're still the gatekeepers for ARMS, but they now have a digital copy of everything. You can attach.
And so do you.
And so do you. Yes, you can digitally attach a handwritten 1522 if you were in a class. You can digitally attach a certificate if it was a CBT that you had to complete. But the part I'm really excited about is when inevitably they say, hey, we can't find this 1522, can you send it again? You can just go back to that record, tell them exactly the date that you sent it, and just hit the resend button, and it sends it back to them. You don't have to find a computer with a cat card, log in to a .mil site, download another thing, and then send it. You don't have to do any of that. You just go to your phone and hit resend, and it does everything right there for you.
If I can be a testament to this, um, I'm not going to talk disparagingly about any software that's out there. I'll caveat this whole thing. I have much to say, but I'll keep my mouth shut, which is a rarity. But I have used other products, and one of the big things that I've noticed that the Air Force has not aspired to yet, and I'm not saying they're not trying. I just don't think they've aspired to, because, like you said, they're trying to eat the entire elephant in one bite. And the mobile application universe of the Air Force in general, I can't speak outside of the Guard or AMC really, but is not quite where I think they want to be. And I'm putting that as mildly and nicely as possible, as politically correctly as possible. I foresee and have used software much like what you are discussing, and that to me is the absolute future, especially when you are a part-time pilot. It is when you do not go to work every day, or boom operator, load master, a part-time SARM troop. It doesn't matter. When you go to work twice a month and you have no concept of, even when you're spending 4 hours logging into a computer, well, you've just, for you non-guard and reserve folks out there, 4 hours is one entire pay period. So for those of you who are not military at all, you just wasted some of your tax dollars on paying us to try to log into our equipment, which is just, that's a foul, and we need to fix that. And this to me is the avenue in which we fix it and are able to do this from home and get the pain part knocked out, so we can go and we can concentrate on the stuff that's really important, mission accomplishment and training, because we know that that is huge, especially when most of us haven't had contact with folks except for flying the line in the cockpit. We haven't had the same debriefs or the opportunity to meet and talk flying stuff to keep our younger pilots moving along in the same direction we used to. So I think this mobile movement is amazing, and I want to personally thank you, because I know it may not benefit my career, but the next phase of pilot is going to have that opportunity that we used to get all the time through different means, but they're going to be able to condense some of that time they're spending on the QUEEP that we've been trying to get rid of for years. And I want to thank your team for being part of that process.
Well, hey, Chris has been complaining about this for like 15. I mean, this is like a service to himself.
I built this for me.
All business.
You guys are happy to use it as well.
His existence.
That's all.
1522s.
All businesses. TPN. Kim, I don't know if you know that, Chris. I don't even know if you know this. TPN was built on one premise, and that was my selfish obsession to get hired at FedEx. I didn't, so I guess TPN was a failure. But the whole thing was I didn't know how to ask for letters of recommendation from people that I knew. So I basically created TPN one day sitting at Bagram Air Force Base, Bagram Air Base as a contractor, going, who do I know at FedEx, and put them in a little Facebook group and said, oh, I'll just put all the pilots I know from Facebook in here. And that way we can all talk about how to ask for letters of rec and sound like jerks to each other. So the most successful businesses are normally the ones that are the most self-serving in the beginning, and then end up helping everybody because they realize the problem. Hey, nobody wants to do QUEEP. It's the bane of my existence, and it's the bane of the SARM folks at my unit's existence, because I suck at paperwork and they have to deal with it, and that wastes their time. And this is alleviating that horrifying cycle that we get into with these with some of this paperwork. So we're probably going to do a demo at the end. So for those of you listening, we'll finish up the podcast portion, then you can head over to YouTube and you'll be able to watch the demo and see how all of this works and gels together. So stay tuned for that. All right. So I think we covered some of the updates that are being released here shortly. Anything else that you want to cover that's coming now, as opposed to maybe 3-6 months down the road? Any big ideas that you see on the horizon that you want to share, or is that close hold at MilKEEP Central?
We're pretty tight-lipped about the stuff in the hopper because
Excellent.
I'm sure you probably noticed that once one team has a good idea and it comes out, and then there's a lot of people who come out and try to do the same exact thing, just not as well. So, yeah, we're
we
pretty.
Also try to be pretty dynamic. So
Yep.
we might next week get a bunch of recommendations from customers who say, you got to have this. And then we'll charge towards that.
Yeah, I'd say there's like 5 things in the hopper right now, but we've had that before, and then a customer writes in and says, hey, why didn't you guys do this? And I'm like, oh,
that's a great idea.
Why didn't we think of that? So I'd say like half of the time we're derailed by great feedback from users, which is kind of only growing. Like the subscription portion of this, where people like now they've got their initial tranche of stuff complete and they want to continue making sure everything is up to date, has really grown, which is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we try to set like 3 major goals a year, 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just get filled in with all the other suggestions from our wonderful usership who have been so supportive. So
yep.
Well, let's, that's part of so we're trying out a new scenario based podcast thing where we're going to kind of have 3 subsects of our podcast, like a pilot side hustle. Then we just have the regular TPN podcast, which is informational in nature. And then we're the third one is kind of Matt and I together talking about just our personal feelings about stuff that's going on in the industry, kind of our touch and go format that we like to do that's a little shorter. And we're starting to slowly break these things apart. So the problem with this podcast is it incorporates all 3, because there's a little bit of that entrepreneurship idea of, hey, we've got 3 major goals per year, and then we get derailed and we have to kind of work our way back. There's a little bit of aviation insight and news, in my opinion, on everything. And then finally, it's just the regular TPN podcast with a lot of information out there. So I think that is something that folks should take a look deeper into at MilKEEP as to what it can do after you're done with that initial tranche of information, like Chris said.
Absolutely.
Therein lies, and I think that's with all things, with TPN and with all these other companies that sponsor and support us, but also those companies that we're out there promoting for no other reason than they exist and they do good business and we don't really necessarily have any ties with them. And then same with the nonprofits that we like to support, is getting that first or last job is just the beginning of what the rest of the future has for you. I know Chris and I are in that same boat. The day I moved on to a new job, or my last job, if you want to call it, I thought that was like, oh, I'm done. And then you realize, nope, that's the first day it's really the first day of the rest of your life. And that tends to be every single day thereafter. So for the folks out there, again, who this is their first time hearing of MilKEEP, where can they reach either of you or the team easiest?
So we're really responsive. Our Facebook page, we respond right away to that. We both get pinged on that one. Team@milkeep.com is a joint account that we look at. And then anything that you want to know, there's contact us information at milkeep.com also.
Yeah.
But,
email, Facebook, easiest ways.
Great. So email, Facebook, we'll have those linked up in the show notes. And I want to thank Chris and Kim for joining us. Again, for those of you who are listening, head over to YouTube and you can see the demo that they're going to do. We're going to do a little shared screen action here. We're going to leave the beauty of their beach house in. Is that Maui or where is that?
This is our kitchen.
It's just tropical.
It's just our kitchen.
This is my state of mind.
Okay. Okay. All right. So Kim's got the Fiji state of mind, and we're going to leave that. We're going to head over and we're going to start doing the demo. For everybody else out there, remember, keep the shiny side up and the greasy side down. Have an enjoyable new year, because that's where we're headed fast. Whether you hear this in the new year or right before, I hope 2021 starts off wonderful for all of you. Fly safe, everybody. All right, Chris, it's all yours if you want to go and show us the wonders of what you guys are up to right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we start out, you just go to regular milkeep.com. I'll sign in with one of my test accounts that we have in our staging environment. When you log in, anyone that's seen it before, you get taken directly to your military logbook. So what I did was I created 5 generic C-17 flights that I tagged for an air medal or an aerial achievement medal. So our guys, when they put stuff in, they would fill it in just like on a 781. But up here, you'll see that there's a check mark, and I can either tag any sortie as an aerial achievement medal or an air medal, and I can name the operation that was next to it. And in the remarks section, that's kind of important too, because when you're building out a citation, you have to figure out some of your memorable sorties or something happens. So this one, for instance, I carried, 11,000 pounds of ammo somewhere. So once I hit my magic number, or as I'm hoping the system's going to count it for me, there's a drop-down tab for military records. And the first one that we're going to show you, if you go to decorations, it takes you to a military decoration, says, here's all the eligible flights that you've tagged in your logbook. You've either tagged them for an air medal or an aerial achievement medal. So if I tagged some of these for aerial achievement, another section would show up here and say, how many of these do you want? So when I initially create a medal, let's say I typed in a bunch of these before, but I'm going to call this one my air medal, and this is my very first one. It's not an oak leaf cluster or anything like that. It's going to start out, it's going to create a portfolio for you that's blank. And when I go to edit, I'll just add whichever ones I want. I could have made 20 and clicked on it, but that would have been a lot of button clicks. So preview the changes. It says, do you want to add these 5 flights? I say yes. And now I've got all of those flights were imported into that specific portfolio for a medal. If I need to edit or change anything, I can delete the portfolio completely or take certain flights out if I want to. But whenever it's finished, you think it's good to go, you hit download form. And you can see it downloads everything for you. So this builds out, this is the common AFCENT form 1 that everyone has to type out by hand. And it's a huge pain in the, you know what, but it fills out everything for you from your logbook. It tells you how many points you're in, it gets you stuff. We didn't include a social, obviously, because you want to make sure it doesn't have the PIS. That's like the one thing that you would have to type in. The other good thing about this is it gives you a summary page on page 2 for all your mission remarks, the fields that you transited, the dates that you flew, when you're starting to build, hey, here are like the 3 most memorable things I did for my citation. So it kind of gives you a good roll-up summary of what you did for that entire air medal, and you can say, you can pick any of those things and say, this is what I did, here's what I want to put into my citation. So a much, much faster way to automatically generate and store all of your medals. Now let's go here. Let's say we talked about the ground event logbooks. So this is the thing that I was kind of excited about. So just like a military logbook, you can add anything you want, right? In the very beginning, there's a ground event library, which is where you build things. Unfortunately, the Air Force allowed bases to name all of these task IDs, anything that they want. So no matter where I go, they're all going to be different. Now there's some, based on one of the Air Force regs, where they're all supposed to be identical at every single base. Those are pre-populated for you. So like AFE training or SEER, local combat survival, something like that. There's a few of those things that are ubiquitous across every single MDS. So we have all those pre-populated for you. If you ever need to make one for your base that's specific, you type in what it is, you type in the event, hey, that's an ISA prep review, and then create a library entry. And it creates it down there for you. So whatever's inside of your library, if I want to start logging something, I'd hit add ground event. It pre-populates to the date, to the current date, the date that it was established. And here, I don't have to remember the task IDs or anything like that. I can just click on the event description. Oh, this is my instrument eval. You know, it auto-populates the task ID for you that's set in the ground event library. So there's not a whole lot of stuff to remember. You just click from a drop-down menu. And you know, sometimes there's a instructor there that signs off a 1522 for you. Sometimes it's a CBT. It doesn't really matter because you can do both of them here. So you can type in the instructor's name, and if and this is all works with your finger as well. So I just touched that with my finger. I can have somebody come in, they can sign it with their finger, use it, and then that signature is going to be imported into the 1522 when you're signing it and when your instructor is signing it. If you have a handwritten 1522, like you did a class, you can upload a file with this button right here. Hold on one sec, I can't see my thing anymore. Or if you had a certificate like from ADLS, a CBT certificate, you can upload that as well. So we'll just leave those blank for now, but you can do one of two things here. You can save the changes if you want to look over everything again, or you can just send it directly to your SARM office. So I'm going to save changes because I want to look over it one more time. It auto generates it. It shows it for you. A lot of SARM troops say the last thing, you should Z anything out that's an open thing. So we already built that for you. Let's see here. If I download it, you can look at it a little bit closer. So this aircrew signature is set in your aircraft or your profile settings page. So you can do the same thing. You just click on sign, and you can sign it with a mouse. You can sign it with your finger, and it'll save your signature.
You'll also go to the settings page to add the email for your SARM.
Yep, and you can add more than one. So if you have the SARM shop and the training shop, you just put in a semicolon or a comma. If you want to add yourself to it so that you're carbon copied, so that you have a copy of everything in your email, you can add that too. But it basically fills out everything for you, Z's it out, and then it adds the instructor signature as required. And then if you send it to the SARM office, then it will send it, and I'll give an automatically generated email from MilKEEP. It says, "Hey SARM, how's it going? Here's a 1522 for this aircrew member." It gives you your last name and first name. It attaches the digital 1522. It attaches any certificates, and it's got it on record. So if I send it, this is the other thing that I kind of like. So now it's got the date that it was sent, and it shows it right there for you. So if I go back to my ground event logbook.
We just got we just heard my phone.
Yeah,
we just got an email.
We just got our email. So now it's got the log of everything that you ever sent or built in MilKEEP and sent to the SARM. And if you ever get a phone call that says, "Hey, we lost the 1522, we can't find that email, can you just resend it?" All you have to do is go into your phone. We have an app that mirrors what you see on the website. Go to your phone, hit resend, and it sends it again. I just sent it twice because I clicked it. And the good thing is it tags every single time that you've ever sent it. So you be like, "Guys, I've already sent this to you 3 times. Do you need it again?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, I need it again." But it gives you at least that peace of mind that yes, this was sent. I have a carbon copy of it. You can either find it in your email, you can go back into MilKEEP through the app, hit resend, and it just gets it right back to them way faster than having to go back, print out a 1522, write it down on paper, find your instructor, drive over to their house, get them to sign it, drive it back to the SARM, and all that kind of stuff. Everything is saved digitally for you.
So I have one quick question about the instructor signature, Chris.
Yeah.
So let's say I have a student who does whatever, and I'm the instructor for it, and they need to get it to me to sign it before it goes to the SARM shop or the training shop.
Yep.
What would be the easiest method to accomplish something like that?
So hopefully, if you're not there with them,
Mm-hmm.
then the easiest method is they just build it without the instructor signature and put and email it to you, and you can do something. We're going to build in the functionality. We're releasing it right now so that it's built for like if you're right there next to your instructor. But we're building in the functionality for you to send it to the instructor
for signature,
and then the instructor can just click it with their finger, sign it, and then send it on to the SARM.
And I think it's a kind of a minor thing because most 1522s are signed by a member of the training shop anyways. There's the rarity, the one-offs, and then of course check rides that are signed by the evaluator type. But normally those are even just the eval shop, or the OGV shop, depending on how you operate. But I was just wondering because it's a pretty small, limited amount of 1522s that are signed by individual instructors in the KC-135 community. So
right.
Yep.
Most times it's not that big of a deal. I was just very curious.
We did think of that, but
cool.
we'd rather like kind of get it out and get the ball rolling. And
yeah, for sure.
Back to our incremental steps thing.
Yeah.
We'd rather
bites.
get it out now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's fantastic stuff. Really, truly, that's awesome. I think there's, as you guys are doing this, I'm getting in my mind how I'm going to send this off to my training shop right after it's done, because they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so easy." And I'm going to go, "Well, you guys got to buy a whole set for our entire squadron, so we don't have to do this anymore."
And honestly, if we start getting like enterprise accounts with squadrons, we're probably going to build in an admin platform. So the SARM troop doesn't even have to yell at the aircrew member and say, give it to me again. They can just, hey, what has everybody ever sent to me? Look it up by person's name and, you know, you're good to go.
That's fantastic. I think, oh wait, so the metals, going back to the metals portion, I wanted to jump in, but you were on such a great roll. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut for a second. I think this is just a absolute, for some pilots, it's going to be a single or it's going to be a nothing because they don't care, right? But for enlisted, this is a grand slam home run. And uh, I want to be able to do some way we get this. We have a small amount of enlisted flyers in TPN, but we need to get this out to the enlisted aviation community force ASAP and as widespread as possible. So I'm going to share this with everybody in my unit, number one. And I think this is enterprise account level stuff that we need to focus on as TPN and pilots who are the ipso facto commanders of these enlisted folks. Although we probably shouldn't be, we are the bosses. So we need to get the word out big time and figure out a way to get this kind of stuff in the hands of our enlisted folks, because this is a game changer for their careers. And it behooves us, it's our best interest to get them as happy as they can be and to put this stuff together. I still have seen air medals coming in for boom operators that are 5 years old. So, and that's unacceptable in the speed of promotion, especially in the Guard Reserve where it happens so fast. And we don't want to get them stalled out. We want them, you know, everybody, if they have the opportunity, should be making senior and chief if they've got the skill set for it. And in the Guard Reserve, there's a lot of people with that skill set, and this is going to help something like that a lot. So this is my call to all of you who are watching this. This needs to go to commanders. This needs to be seen by everybody that could possibly see it. Even if you don't care about you getting an air medal, that boom, that load, those people out there who flight engineers, those people out there who are flying the line with you, this is big to them. So this may not help you, but it will help them. So that needs to be promoted big time. And squadrons, ops groups should be owning this software so they can forget about doing it. So the enlisted are taken care of. But that's just my 2 cents. And I'm sure I'll hear some blowback from that from somebody, but whatever. I think that's just, this is a necessary thing for our enlisted folks. So I'm going to take this to my commander and say, you got to see this, because I think they're going to love it.
Awesome. Yeah, like just, you know, to your point, enlisted are promoted off a quantitative score versus officers, which is just fluff, you know, kind of qualitative writing on an OPR. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I flew with one of the best loadmasters I've ever flown with, and he didn't get promoted to tech sergeant. He missed by 1/4 of a point. And when we went back and looked, he had over 11 air medals that he had never logged. And so our commander was like furious because this guy completely deserved it. And if he had logged even one of those, he would have been a tech sergeant, you know, so he grounded him until all his paperwork was finished. He's like, I need you to do this. You need to be a tech sergeant, you know, and this hopefully makes it way easier for anyone. You know, you have to do some of the post-mission paperwork anyway. So you might as well just click on the button, tag it for later. And then, you know, down the road, when you hit your number of required missions, you can automatically populate that paperwork.
Yeah. And if I hear one person say, oh, you know, he should have done that, I'll be like, come on, you're talking about the 1% who actually does every single air medal input of their career right after they fly. In fact, I've never met there's one guy that comes to mind who is the most meticulous when it comes to that stuff. I've still never seen him do it after every single sortie. Mm-hmm. So this would save a lot of people. And you know what? If you're doing that, then you're probably not busy enough doing some actual real work in the military, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So think about that for a moment. And yeah, I'm definitely put this out there. I want anybody who's a true fan of TPN, of MilKEEP, if they've helped you, send this stuff to your bosses and let's get rolling. Some of this stuff needs to be enterprise level. And the only way we're going to get it spectrum wide in the Air Force is if we're all saying, hey, we've got the solutions. The solutions are a tenth of the cost of what our current quote unquote solutions are. These things will make everybody's job a lot easier, a lot less headache. It's using current and available software and technology. And we just need to vet it through the right security protocols, which we already know that we can do that. We've used other products like that in the military.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
as far as I'm concerned, the only way we can do this is grassroots through us. So let's get this moved out there with everybody. And I know the people who are actually going to sit down and watch this are the folks that can make that call, that can forward this on to their boss, who will forward it on to their boss, and so on and so forth. Because that's the only way we're going to make this change. And it may not benefit Chris and I in our career. Probably not. We're probably not going to see much of it. But for the next generation, and of course for the E's, because there could be an E who's at year 20, they still got 10 more years to go. Let's get them. Let's get them to E8. Let's get them to E9, and through using this stuff, we can do that. So I really believe in that enterprise level uptake. Again, Chris, Kim, thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to show in the presentation before we say la vie to our folks out there?
No, I don't think those are the two big ones.
Okay, awesome. Again, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you guys back on in like 6 months when we move to our next big thing. And that was awesome. Thank you very much. I learned a ton, and I'm excited about that. All right, everybody. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. Fly safe.
Thanks, Adam.